boycotting the upcoming World Cup games in the U.S. The local World Cup committee has been expecting hundreds of thousands of visitors to travel to the Metro when the matches kick off in 5 months.
In the Observer, we are, of course, looking ahead to the World Cup this summer.
Is that fans will almost vote with their feet to a degree, and the fans simply won't go in the numbers that FIFA and the USA and Mexico and Canada would expect. And I think
something shifted inside global football this week. It did not arrive through a press conference or a formal announcement. No stadium erupted. No official letter was published. Yet inside the corridors of FIFA headquarters and across the boardrooms of European football federations, a quiet alarm began sounding. And the source of that alarm was not a scandal or a financial collapse. It was a single conversation happening inside Germany. The 2026 World Cup was supposed to be untouchable. FIFA had spent years constructing the narrative around it. The largest tournament in the history of the sport. 48 nations competing across 3 host countries. The United States, Canada, and Mexico offering a combined infrastructure of world-class stadiums, massive broadcasting reach, and billions of dollars in commercial investment. Sponsorship packages were signed. Broadcasting rights were sold. The machine was already running. And then Germany introduced a question that machine was never designed to answer. What happens when one of football's most powerful nations begins reconsidering whether to show up at all? That question did not come from a fringe voice or an outside critic. It came from within the German Football Association itself. A senior official acknowledged publicly that the idea of boycotting the 2026 World Cup deserved serious consideration. The statement was not emotional. It was not impulsive. It was delivered with the calm precision of someone who understood exactly what they were saying and exactly how much weight those words would carry. Because in football, Germany does not simply participate. Germany anchors the entire event. To understand why that matters, consider what Germany actually represents inside the global football economy. 4 World Cup titles, multiple European championships, a domestic league that produces global talent and commands television audiences across every major market on earth. When Germany plays, viewers watch in Europe, in Asia, in South America, and across North America. Sponsors structure entire campaigns around that viewership. Broadcasting networks build programming strategies anticipating those matchups. Advertisers commit hundreds of millions of dollars expecting Germany to be present on that stage. FIFA built the financial architecture of the 2026 tournament on assumptions. One of the most fundamental assumptions was that Germany would be there. When an official inside that federation begins raising doubts publicly, those assumptions start to crack. FIFA responded the way it always responds. Official statements emphasized neutrality. Messaging focused on unity and the universal nature of football. The organization repeated its long-standing position that sport and politics should remain separate. The language was calm and familiar. Yet inside FIFA, calm public language and calm internal reality rarely describe the same situation. Legal departments began reviewing contracts. Financial analysts started examining risk scenarios. The question circulating behind closed doors was no longer hypothetical. It was operational. What does this tournament look like if Germany is absent? What does it cost? And who else might follow? That final question carried the most weight. Denmark responded first. Danish officials acknowledged publicly that concerns surrounding the tournament deserved careful examination. They did not declare a boycott. They did not issue ultimatums, but they stopped offering the kind of firm, unconditional commitment that tournament organizers depend on. French officials adopted similar language: vague, measured, deliberately non-committal. In the United Kingdom, media outlets that had previously treated boycott discussions as extreme began covering them as realistic possibilities. Parliamentary debates emerged. Lawmakers asked questions that football administrators had never expected to field. None of this happened through coordination. No alliance formed. No joint statement was issued. Yet the atmosphere surrounding the 2026 World Cup had changed completely within days. National federations were watching each other. And every federation that expressed hesitation made it slightly easier for the next one to do the same. The host nations responded differently. Canada focused on logistics. infrastructure, preparation. Canadian officials emphasized stability and readiness without engaging with the political controversy directly. Mexico adopted the same tone. Decades of experience hosting major tournaments, reliable stadium networks, a welcoming environment for international visitors. Both countries understood that in a moment of growing uncertainty, predictability had become their most valuable asset. Neither nation attempted to confront the storm. Both chose to position themselves as the calm inside it. The United States found itself in a more complicated place. The tournament had been promoted as a demonstration of American leadership inside global sport, a showcase of economic capacity, organizational strength, and stadium infrastructure. Yet questions began surfacing that no amount of infrastructure could easily answer. Immigration policies, visa procedures, entry requirements that varied unpredictably depending on a traveler's nationality and origin. FIFA's promise surrounding every World Cup has always been the same. The tournament welcomes fans from every corner of the globe. That promise is not merely ceremonial, it is commercial. Fans travel to matches. Fans fill stadiums. Fans spend money on accommodation, transportation, and merchandise. When supporters from certain nations begin questioning whether they can safely enter the host country, that promise weakens. And a weakened promise undermines the entire commercial structure built around it. Supporters from Senegal and Ivory Coast encountered questions about visa eligibility that complicated travel planning. Fans connected to nations like Iran and Haiti faced additional layers of uncertainty driven by diplomatic tensions and existing entry restrictions. For supporters who saved for years to attend a single World Cup, uncertainty about entry is not an inconvenience. It is a barrier. And barriers introduced into a global celebration create a fundamentally different event from the one advertised. Back inside Germany, the conversation continued growing more direct. FIFA Vice President Hans-Joachim Watzke acknowledged that historical Olympic boycotts had once been treated as necessary political statements. He questioned why similar conversations about the World Cup should be automatically dismissed. Another senior DFB figure, Vice President Ronnie Zimmerman, stated openly that sporting organizations cannot pretend to exist outside political reality when global audiences are watching every decision they make. These were not casual remarks. They were deliberate signals. And they reflected something broader shifting across European football. The idea that silence equals neutrality was losing credibility. National associations operate within public environments. Their constituents form opinions. Governments apply pressure. In the Netherlands, a petition calling for a fan boycott of matches associated with the United States, African opposition leaders urged their federation to reconsider participation. British lawmakers debated the issue in parliamentary sessions connected to international relations and sporting diplomacy. The cumulative weight of these developments does not need to produce an official withdrawal to create a crisis. FIFA's greatest vulnerability is not a sudden wave of dramatic announcements. It is gradual erosion. A World Cup missing several major European nations looks different. It feels different. It performs differently in broadcasting markets. Sponsors who paid premium prices for access to specific audiences begin asking uncomfortable questions. Networks that structured programming around particular matchups find their strategies compromised. Remove Germany from that equation and the tournament loses something that money cannot replace. Remove 2 or 3 more major European nations and the financial model underlying the entire event requires reconstruction. That is the scenario FIFA is now working to prevent. Not through confrontation, through reassurance, through private conversations and quiet diplomacy that rarely reaches public view but determines the actual outcome. Germany did not declare a boycott. German officials did not issue ultimatums or demand immediate structural changes from FIFA. They did something more precise. They introduced a question into the conversation. Participation in the World Cup depends on conditions extending beyond the football pitch. How should national associations respond when those conditions appear uncertain? That question alone changed everything. Because once it is asked publicly by a nation carrying Germany's institutional weight, it cannot be unasked. It circulates through boardrooms and media studios and government offices. It forces FIFA to acknowledge something it has always preferred to avoid. The World Cup does not exist outside the world. It exists inside it. And the world right now is a complicated place. The 2026 tournament was designed to represent expansion, financial strength, and global unity inside football. Instead, it has become a test of whether international sport can navigate geopolitical tension without fracturing. A test of whether the institutions governing football still hold enough trust to keep the world's most powerful nations at the table. The answer is no longer guaranteed. And that is exactly where football finds itself today.